Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Pull Up Tray podcast. That is, of course, co hosted by myself, Samson Folk, and joined naturally by the Trey who balls up Trevon Heath. He's a sinner. How was that movie? How was your past week? How's it been?
Sinners, first of all, I'm doing incredible. But Sinners was arguably like one of the best movies I've watched probably in the last like few years. And like you know me, I'm anti avant-garde, anti hype up art. But it got me. Some of these scenes, I know you haven't watched it yet, so I won't spoil much. But some of these scenes I'm like I said cinema while watching it.
So there's a
Very
tweet.
very
Oh,
entertained.
go. Okay, so there's a tweet from must have been 2017 from Emily Lakdawala,
Mhm.
a white woman who says, "So I carefully did not buy Black Panther tickets for opening weekend because I did not want to be the white person sucking black joy out of the theater. What's the appropriate date for me to buy tickets? Is next weekend okay?" And I tweeted this out, but I'm wondering, Trey, when can I buy tickets to Sinners?
I'm thinking 3 weeks.
Three
I'm
weeks?
thinking just because it wasn't like Black Panther where like everyone rushed to the theater because it's a Marvel movie and it had the marketing budget. Now it's just making its a little word of mouth. So the next week is going to be the real rush. So you got to give another week. Let people watch it. Let them have their think pieces and break it down, and then tell you how to feel about the movie. So you can
Okay.
then tweet it.
And if I get a seat, what if a black person has to sit in the front and crane their neck? I mean, what a
That's shaky. Like one, like you kind of don't want to. You gotta teach them a lesson. You gotta arrive early to the movie, but at the same time, optics are horrible.
Yeah, Oleg, he's been really bugging me about when we're gonna go watch that together. So sometime soon. But Sinners is good. Last week's been good. I know we told everybody we'd be doing CMB this week, but actually next week we're just gonna do a bigger draft episode, and I also will be bringing on draft people to the podcast over the next however many weeks to retread prospects that Trey and I have talked about, because more opinions is good, and we're here to basically canvas one another and say, what is the perfect off season look like? What do we want to have happen for these Raptors? And to set the scene, these Raptors were a top half defense, just barely, a bottom half offense. What do they need? They clearly need more depth, perhaps even impact at the big man position. They are low on impact at the point guard position, although maybe some people believe that's answered on roster. Some people believe that's elsewhere. They have a glut of wings, and they have a couple people leaving. Trey, I'll start off with you. What is the big thing that you just guaranteed you just have to have the Raptors doing in this upcoming offseason?
They need to either through a draft pick or sign someone larger than 6'5", but shorter than 6'10". They similar to Canada basketball, the Raptors have like a gluttony of like 6 foot to 6'5", tons of guys who play the same position, and they might even draft another guy with those same with the same build, same measurements. And you see it when they play larger teams that have like those big power wings. I've noticed it in games where they play the Knicks, when they play a team like Denver, where like Aaron Gordon's just you're not gonna be able to stop him off the glass. You're not gonna be able to stop him on drives because you have Jacoby Walter, Grady Dick, who's trying to stop him from getting there. And they don't got Jacoby might have the chutzpah, even Grady might have the chutzpah, honestly, but the little light in the ass. And we need someone to be able to guard those type of players, and it would make things a lot easier. Because in most of those situations, you're forcing Scotty to step further out and guard those people. And that's not what you want because he's so important to the defense.
And so your expectation isn't that Brandon Ingram is going to take those types of roles. It's not that RJ Barrett is going to take those types of roles. You're looking off roster for this.
Yeah. We need someone that's gonna get muddy, someone that makes lineups tenable.
Is that guy already. It's just the
Yeah,
offense
the
is so
offense, yeah.
far away. That's it. That wouldn't have been where my mind went. That's really interesting. When you think about like people coming up in this free agency class or guys who are, I guess, not really valued elsewhere, does somebody come to mind like Dorian Finney-Smith, depending on how this playoff run goes, with the Lakers, maybe he doesn't take his player option. Maybe he's trying to get something bigger. But
Yeah.
then you're going north of the mid-level. There's like Luke Kennard will be available, but he doesn't
Yeah.
solve anything.
He doesn't fit that at
Um,
all.
Trey Jones is too small. Jeff Green is the ultimate vet. Like, do you think of anybody? Jayshawn Tate is available at his big age of 29. Crazy. I know we've made jokes at his expense, or even, and here's the fun one.
Mhm.
We didn't talk about this prior, but I'll say this. Jonathan Kuminga is gettable.
He is for
I
sure.
know you and I have disagreed about
Mm.
Mr. Kuminga for years now. I
Yeah.
am, for the podcast faithful, a Kuminga supporter, a Kuminga believer. Where are you on Jonathan Kuminga? Can I try and get you into that?
While I think Darko could scheme up ways for him to score properly, like score in efficient ways, but it's the same scenario with the Warriors where like he kind of needs to you kind of need to build lineups around his lack of shooting and his lack of ability to put it on the floor. And the Raptors aren't a good enough team where you can have him attach him to the hip with Steph Curry and allow him to be able to work through the middle. The Raptors have none of those. Maybe that's a manual quickly, hopefully, but they have none of those guys that offer that honestly. So I think it would be tough. Like when I'm thinking like wings, I don't even think it needs to be like a home run starter. It could be a guy that you can throw in and out the lineup. Like looking at some guys like Caleb Housen's probably gettable for like from the Magic. He has a he's gonna be a restricted free agent. Someone that couldn't still space the floor exactly how you want, has the requisite size of what you need. And a guy that we've mentioned previously, like in the draft class that I particularly wanted when we had the 30, I think it was the 35th pick that year, the colloquial year, if I'm not mistaken.
33rd. 33rd.
33rd. I know Nick Nurse fell to his knees when Andrew Nemhard got drafted.
I fell
But
to my knees when he got drafted.
oh man. But they just need a guy that's tenable in some of these lineups because you don't want Brandon Ingram guarding the other team's best wing, and you also don't want him guarding like some of the larger wings in the league. He's more of a slight guy, more of a rangy guy, and you want him to probably his best impact is like team defense, being a help defender, and like making sure that he doesn't tank lineups. But you need guys that get dirty, can fight on the glass, and similar to like what Davion does, like just live within the offense, allow the other guys to do what they do.
Yeah. I don't like Davion is a pretty singular player, but
Yeah.
to your point of the Brandon Ingram where you want him in the defense, it is like if any of the listeners have been kind of keeping tabs on Pascal Siakam, well wishing or maybe hoping for downfall, I don't know what you get into as a fan. You can see like Tyrese in the weak side corner on Taurean Prince. You can see also Damian Lillard. Like these guys are hidden because they're weak defenders, not necessarily because they're guards. And Brandon Ingram, if he's in that position that Tyrese Halliburton is in, for example, it's a lot more size and length to throw at these weak side zones. It's somewhere where you can keep him, and he's probably more effective, especially if he's diligent stepping in as a rotator. I'll give you a name that used to be quite popular. Like it's
Mm.
Obi-Wan. Oh, you're not a Star Wars guy, but Obi-Wan Kenobi. I haven't
I
heard
don't
that
know.
name in
I know who.
years. Well, of course I know him. He's me, Amir Coffee.
Oh wow, that's made the pod rounds a few times.
Oh, he and Jalen Noel had a summer of yearning, for Coffee and Noel. I'll give you the stats. He
Yeah.
hasn't played in the playoffs. He hasn't hit the lineup, but this year he played 24 minutes a game, and he gave you just about 10 points per game, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, and he is scrappy. If you're going to be a low usage wing on those Clippers, you know who's going to make you defend? Mr. Lou. He's gonna make you get after it. So, Amir Coffee, if you're going for the like low impact, just like gettable guy,
Mhm.
he might be the guy you can get after. Now, Kuminga, I don't even know what that trade package would look like. I see it's been kicked around for a while because Masai was reportedly into Jonathan Kuminga at all of that time. But outside of that, I guess Chris Boucher is another guy who fits that size range that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Is it just an easy walk for you? You want like Chris Boucher to greener pastures, perhaps?
Yeah, video package, first game back. Salute to him, hugs. But I think on the roster, and they've already shown it through their actions. Like he doesn't make sense to him. Like Mobo's taking a lot of the minutes that he would have gotten.
Yeah, and they are not interested in it,
Yeah,
seemingly.
100%.
And like that's a funny thing because Chris occupies like a similar salary range to guys like who like maybe like he's close to like Tybal, he's close to Connaughton, Steven Adams, these types of guys like in that range. But a lot of these guys, I think we'll see their salaries descend, and I think
Yeah,
we'll see Chris Boucher's as well. As far as the big man position, that was the one thing Masai said when asked about need versus best player available in his draft process. Or what's the word that everybody used to use to describe like I can't remember. Wait, let me look this up. It was what the it was like your process for understanding something. Heuristic. That's what it
curious.
is.
Oh yeah,
Your draft heuristic. That's the word I was looking for. Um, the big man seems to be a target. Is that on the roster? Is that elsewhere?
yeah. That I think that one's. I think that you solve in the draft with one of your
Are
two
you gonna
picks.
make
Like
the pitch again?
I can only say it so many times, but like if they get to 7, like it's Derek Queen again, no brainer. He can operate in all the ways the Raptors ask from an offensive standpoint, and you have a defensive linchpin that can make up for some of his defensive like liabilities. I would say so. Either that, or with your second pick, or your second pick in the second round, you get a guy that you can plug and play is not the word, but a guy that can fill those type of minutes. I just think for a veteran big, while it could be nice, I think the Raptors are still in a space where like those bench minutes are still being used by guys like they want to develop and like want to have long term. And a bench big, if the Raptors are really good, they could find for a second round pick at the deadline and get that guy really quickly, like a Steven Adams, for example.
Well, also like Davion has been unbelievable for the
Hmm.
Heat in the playoffs, and he was very easy to obtain from the Raptors at that time. You know, people called us jackasses for thinking that the Raptors could get anything for him, but hey, I mean, what do we know? I do want to
Yeah,
ask you. We can just take it here as far as because you say Queen at 7, but let's do this at 1. We're both taking Cooper Flag, yeah.
of course.
At
Yeah.
number 2, who are you taking? I've switched it.
Oh wow.
I've switched it.
Oh, I want to say another name, but I'd probably be like in real life. I think I'd be too scared to say the name, so I would take Dylan Harper. I mean,
I'm VJ.
wow, you have
I
more
like
balls than me.
VJ.
Wow.
I like VJ number 2. So if the Raptors were at number 2 and maybe you get a unique opportunity like trade down and still get VJ depending on the boards or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think from looking around, I think VJ is my second favorite prospect in this class. As crazy as that sounds, he's very very impressive. Uh
I don't
3
mind it.
3 is who's 3 for
Yeah.
you then?
Three I would take VJ. That'd be a no-brainer. At 2, you're scared of the floor, I think is the issue.
I like his floor.
I think Dylan Harper's floor is higher though. Like maybe in the
Yeah,
context of the Raptors now, they don't necessarily need that skill set maybe as much as they did pre Brandon Ingram trade.
it,
But
it
it's still a guy that had some of the highest driving like metrics of the
yes.
last 10 years.
Yeah. VJ, I think the thing you'd be scared of obviously is if things go not well at all and you're like, we drafted Aaron Neesmith at number 2. Aaron
Yeah,
Neesmith is a starter on a playoff team and a good
that's
one,
fair.
but you're like number 2, you
Yeah.
know, but VJ I've come around on a lot. I would at number 3 I'd go Harper. So I guess we're inverted there. Who is your number 4? Because remember, for listeners, the Raptors can't choose 5 or 6. It's not possible for them to jump to 5 or 6 the way the
Yeah.
lottery works. They either go top 4 or they go between 7 and 11. At number 4, who are
Hmm.
you taking?
I think I'd pick Derek Queen, honestly. I I probably still would,
Oh,
to be honest. Just like with Ace Bailey, you have a guy that he like has the profile of a shooter or of like Michael Porter Jr., but doesn't necessarily shoot like Michael Porter Jr. And that that's a tough sell because that's supposed to be his outlier skill, and currently it hasn't really popped off in the way that maybe like some of like the high school reputation sort of had. And you know that there's some limitations, obviously driving and putting it on the floor, and like on the aspect of the Raptors, it's tough. Like you're gonna need a guy. He's not gonna have possessions where he's gonna be working out those creation issues. Like they're in a position now where you need a guy that you that is a sure bet that can create for themselves, score the basketball, and you're not worried about his liabilities, both kind of defensively, which I think I'm higher defensively than most, I would say, but it still isn't a positive skill, I would say.
This is very interesting. So Derek Queen has jumped all the way to number 4 for you.
Yeah.
You're Magnus Carlsen over here, dog. You fell in love with the chess piece. Holy moly! At 4, I still think if I'm sitting at 4, and there isn't like a very strong consolidation trade, which we it's hard to build out trades. We'll talk a
Yeah.
little bit about it later, but the Raptors are in a position where they could make a consolidation trade now.
Mhm.
If nothing comes up, I think I do go chalk a little bit. If Ace Bailey is there, it's either him or Trey Johnson, probably for me.
Mm.
Ace, I think, has a higher upside, but Trey is really fun to watch.
Yeah,
But
he is.
I'd grab Ace for the upside aspect of it all.
That's
Uh,
totally fair.
he's just so impressive in some respects. Okay, 7. You can't go Derek Queen anymore. You already put him in the top 4. That's incredible. Who do you go with number 7? Is this
Oh, I'm sprinting with the media card that says Jeremiah Pierce on right on there. It would be like such a cool like a passion project of some sorts. Like the Raptors have never had that the quintessential creator point guard that can go up and down the court. That's super athletic. They've had avant-garde point guards, guys who move the ball, guys who he, he, they get connected passes, connected assists, hockey type plays, and you see the impact. You see you see
you're a
the
funny
impact
guy.
in the aggregate. Whereas we've never had that De'Aaron Fox, that big time point guard, that John Wall, big time point guard that can do all that stuff. I think it'd be really cool, and I believe in the shooting upside. So I think Jeremiah Fierce in a redraft could be like top 4, top 5 player easily.
You love this in-group, out-group dynamic. Everything's avant-garde. Cool guy, cool guy. You're running from the spreadsheet, man. Oh my days. I think why would you want De'Aaron Fox or John Wall if you could have Kyle Lowry? Why? You have Kyle Lowry.
He's great.
A, a super dynamic. Jeez, that's seemed, seemed a bit trite and glib to borrow from mine and Caitlin's podcast. I do think like a guard who fits the aesthetic of like superstar guards is, to your point, new in
Yeah,
Toronto, just even from a fan experience. The Lakers have gotten to cheer for every type of player under the sun, right?
that's a
Like
fact.
they've gotten it all, man. And the Raptors, it's a very specific type of player that you've been able to cheer for. Even just having that diversity of like fandom, because
Mhm.
some fan bases understand certain styles of play better than others because of what
Yeah.
they've been exposed to, what they've seen work. You know, Warriors fans have a much higher appreciation for the split action, the split cut, than a lot of other franchises fans do.
Yep.
And the Raptors, I mean, it they are picky about decision making with guards, obviously, because
Mhm.
Kyle was so good and Fred was God. I mean, like he wouldn't turn the ball over, but some of the shot making decisions were just like, holy hell, man, what's going on here? But if they had a guard who like splits the middle and is like soaring to the bucket like Fierce does, could be really fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
7. Yeah, I'll go Fierce too, because I think he would be really fun to cover, and I think yeah, that would be fun to have in the city. And also, Like, as much as you said, like, the Raptors may not need X or Y type of player because how they build out the offense.
Mm.
Darko loves point guards,
Yeah, you could tell.
and a responsible point guard like Davion Mitchell played really well for the Raptors. And I know there was a lot of there was a lot of debate about him constantly, but he was good, especially relative to his salary, what he was asked to do, and Dennis relative to his salary, relatively to what he was asked to do. He's a mid-level exception player.
Mm.
Darko gets stuff out of his point guards, and could be interesting, and also creates a different avenue for what Emmanuel quickly looks like for these Raptors going forward too, without having to entertain perhaps a trade or something like that. So interesting. Very
Mhm.
interesting. That's probably like okay, yeah. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 7. I mean, if it goes farther, it could be any. It could be any. Are you gonna hop on the draft lottery
I
podcast?
don't. If
The
we
live?
fall down, I please just please bump me down from this live stream. If we go down to 9 or 10.
I want you live. I want you live, dude. No.
Oh man, I don't think what's the loudest I probably when we lost to the Bulls in the play-in.
Hmm.
I screamed like nobody's business. I couldn't believe that I went through such pain for a season like that.
Yeah. And the thing was, like, they worked really hard. They made the trade. They played
Yeah,
at like a 47 win pace, despite not even playing well. And I think Pascal had what, like 33 and whatever else. Like he had a high number of assists as well. Like they got the star performance. Scotty played well in that game. He had like
yep.
19 points on what, maybe like 12 shots, 13 shots, and he rebounded well. He was like in it, and they lost that game because Fred couldn't beat Vucevic,
It
man.
it was. I remember when we lost. I screamed, "We traded a first round pick for this! I can't believe it!"
Oh man, yeah.
Oh
Disheartening.
yeah.
Extremely disheartening. Man, I guess Fred is he might be a free agent. You want to go down that road with the you want to throw the piggy bank at him?
I'll pass. I've enjoyed watching Fred from afar a lot. Just especially seeing like how he's transformed Houston. Even when he's playing bad, like he helps them win minutes. Even when
So
he's shooting tour dates.
there is a tweet. I sent it to our mutual friend T because
Yeah.
he's very into this type of talk. There's a Turkish NBA analyst. His name is Kaan Kural. He
Mhm.
said Fred Van Vliet played very bad, but Jalen Green played wrong. Those are very different things. Oh, oh, right up some people's alley. That type of commentary. I liked it. I was like, "Ooh, that's a nice little." I feel like I might also use that in the future. It's a nice little piece of commentary when you want to say like this guy. I like him. It'll come around.
Yeah.
This other guy plays like a jackass. You can be really kind by saying it that way. The other
Yeah.
thing that we have to talk about before we kind of catch up with what the ex Raptors are doing around the NBA, because I've seen every podcast has touched on this, so why don't we? What type of trade are you looking for? The Raptors have been selling off pieces for some time
Mhm.
because they've been one in position to have pieces to sell off. This is a very talented team that lost to those Bulls. God damn it. Um, and so, I mean, Davion they sold off
Yeah.
after Jalen. They traded to because they were adaptable and had space. They don't have a ton of space. If they win the first overall pick, they'll be headed into the luxury tax for this
Yep.
upcoming season. There's a bunch of stuff. Is this a team that needs to sell high, or is this a team that needs to consolidate? Is this a team? What kind of trade? We can't build the package out right now, but what kind of trade are you hoping to get?
I think in an ideal world, you're hoping to package the Knicks guys in order to get like a star and maybe like a couple like auxiliary pieces attached to that. In an ideal world,
Did
I
you
think like
see, just quickly as I
mhm.
mentioned, famed Grizzlies fan Hoop Goose said that he was sick of John Morant and wanted to trade him for Emmanuel Quickly and RJ Barrett. And that's
Oh,
from the Grizzlies fan base.
I would shed absolute tears if we got John Morant in this city. But like a trade like that where you have a star that probably This is probably like the lowest his value has probably been in his career, probably, honestly.
Who, John Morant?
John Morant, yeah.
You think it's lower now than when it
But he was still playing well. He was he was still hooping. He was so good they blamed Dylan Brooks.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
how well
dude.
he was
That's
playing.
such a good point. They took a good player and were like, "It was him. He did it." Oh,
Oh
that's
man.
funny.
So it's like a guy like that you could probably get cheaper than you would have, and it's also a guy that Darko's familiar with. He's already adjusted the type of play that he's wanted for a guy like John Morant. So that an ideal world would be like a really really good fit across the board. And you have Scotty Ingram, Ja, and you're a team looking to win 50 plus games. You're really looking to compete now. Right now, the Raptors have dipped their toe in trying to win, but they've also are paying at a salary of a team looking to contend, which is like, which is kind of the dissonance here with what they're doing. Like, there's clearly a trade that's going to happen within the next year because there's no way they're paying the luxury tax for this team.
Masai was asked about that, and he said that the organization was comfortable, like, if it comes to that. But th- there are probably unspoken concessions that are
Yeah,
attached to that kind of stuff. I'll tell you what, Jaw, Scotty, and Ingram is a very funky three-man fulcrum of a team. Like that's a that is funkadelic.
yeah,
That is Maggot Brain 1970. That is a funky little situation. Um, when we talked about Darren Fox, I believe we both, when he was being rumored before it actually really popped off, it was like,
yeah.
"Hey, would you try and package to get Darren Fox in Toronto?" I think we both said no. Do you remember what you
Yeah.
said? I know I said no for sure,
I
but we
think
were
we
kind of like,
mentioned like the package that would cost, but I think no in general because the Raptors like weren't ready to compete.
just seeing how it looks, and also, yeah,
Yeah.
Brandon Ingram. It's I don't know where I am with these Raptors yet because I selfishly want proof of concept
For sure.
before I choose a path, and I suspect that the Raptors do as well. Masai,
Mhm.
Bobby, they want proof of concept. They traded to get proof of concept. However, trade opportunities don't come at all of the perfect times. Sometimes
Yep.
you have to trade before proof of concept is there. Sometimes you have
Mhm.
to trade while proof of concept is proven. If maybe you see down the line it's not going to work, you got to pivot. You got to
Yep.
pivot when the defense doesn't expect you to. And the defense is 29 other teams who are simultaneously building up their own situation. I'm very interested to see when the Raptors pull the trigger on something because a trigger almost assuredly will
Yeah.
be pulled. I just don't know what kind because they could go quite a few different ways. We said when they trade for Ingram, like, this team is built to pivot. It's
Yeah.
clearly what they plan to do.
Yeah. 100%. It is tough because like you still haven't seen Brandon Ingram play with Scotty. So like the skill sets they might need like isn't really set in stone. Like throwing like Ja, for example, throwing on the team, would be it would definitely from like a schematic standpoint challenge Darko to the highest extent of like getting all these guys the ball and managing who is operating the offense, obviously. But just at the size that they paid, and I think the quickly one is the tough one, where you need to make a decision and pivot quickly before that becomes like an albatross and it's a hole burning in your salary.
I think you probably, because it's flat
Yeah.
and he's under team control. Maybe, like, again, just happy to
The, the,
disagree. Go ahead.
this is what the Bulls said about Patrick
Oh,
Williams.
you're a funny guy. You're a funny guy. Emmanuel, that is the rudest thing I've heard
I'm
anybody
just
say
saying it's the
about
same
Emmanuel.
scenario.
It's not the same. We have to get Makai on here to tell you, like, no, no, that is not the same. I'll tell you what, though, if I'm ranking Darius Garland, Andrew Nemhard, and Emmanuel quickly, IQ's third. It
Yeah.
like I just I don't think it could become an albatross. It like if he doesn't take any step,
Yeah.
like it's static all the way through, then
Yeah.
you probably aren't comfortable with his contract until like year 4 or 5, which is not a
Yeah.
fun place to be. That means like 2 years of hand wringing. But I think the RJ one is the one that I think is front of mind for everybody because he comes off the
Yeah.
books soon and there is value there for the team,
Mhm.
for the franchise. But also, they've paid everybody and they have to be a team now that unless proof of concept is there and they're like, "Oh damn, we're good as hell." Like let's say they bust out next year, the first 30 games are on pace for like 49 to 53 wins. It's like, "Oh hell yeah." Then they're
Yeah.
probably and RJ is a major part of that.
Yeah.
Then they probably say luxury tax incoming, pay the man. And it
Mhm.
probably goes north of what comfortable for most people, especially since RJ is not perceived the way that, some what we would like him to be perceived perhaps,
Yeah.
but he is the one who comes front of mind because just the team control thing, but
Mhm.
it could go anywhere because Emmanuel quickly certainly has more quote unquote trade value than RJ, and it could end up being that like I it's all about what other teams want.
Yeah.
If you want to win a trade, really. Because if it's the Raptors just saying like we need this, this, and this, these are the guys we can give up. If you just lead with that, I mean, you get fleeced usually, unless it's like Moneyball. It keeps
Yeah.
showing up. I keep getting YouTube clips of Moneyball scenes. I'm just like, damn it, he's so good.
What a guy.
The popcorn in the coffee filter. Give me a ring cone. Jeez, man.
Have you seen Mark Shapiro saying like everything associated with the Cleveland Indians, none of it is true?
Yeah. I
I
think
was
a
like,
lot of it was not true. Like David Justice was like, they didn't have to tell me to be a leader. He was like, I was 39. He was like, I was 39. I knew what it was. Talk about paying for some soda pop or whatever. Yeah, and then there's just like everybody was like, no, that's not true. I think the
yeah,
manager Art Howe was like, they made me an asshole. I wasn't
yeah.
an asshole. I knew what it was, but yeah.
Like he didn't understand the value of a walk.
Yeah.
Or-
He was probably saying like this avant-garde bullshit.
yeah, I would have lost. I would have lost it too when they said they would get Jason Giambi in the aggregates. I would have lost it.
I it's so funny. What was the one that like he walks into a room and his junk has been there for like 2 minutes already, and he's like, "What are we talking about right now, man?" Un That is unbelievable scoutsmanship. That's like
Yeah,
it's just guys in a room saying the most unhinged, unintelligible things. Okay. We've had the team building conversation of which we will dive more thoroughly into
100%.
as the Raptors obviously the league takes form, teams fall out, stories come out of players planning to hit free agency, players becoming available. All of this, we're taking a walk in the park and seeing what's developed. The leaves are just beginning to turn. In that turn, though, we have Raptors, former, scattered all around the NBA, and especially the Eastern Conference. You have Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, Dennis Schroeder, Davion Mitchell. Who else am I missing? Is there another big? I guess Kawhi is in this too.
Yeah,
Norm is in
cool.
this. Are there like obviously we'll start with the Raptors stuff, but as far as like the playoffs overall, has anything enthralled you so far? Again,
Enthralled.
the end
That's
of
one of
your
my
season.
favorite words, honestly. Um, I think the most fun stuff is like how good the Pacers actually are. Like
It's been nice.
I expected them to win the series, but it hasn't been competitive at all through 2 games. Although like Doc Rivers is like I'm very confident, but I'm
I'm very
not.
confident. I think we can take this series.
I'm not confident at all heading forward to them.
Mm.
And Pascal is aging super well, very very well, and it's like living up to his contract. He might even make All NBA this year, which is super cool. I think just looking at like all the situations and looking at OG playing well, Fred leading a 50 win team is just like they had all this talent. They both like squandered the opportunity that they had when the guys were together, and then they also squandered the opportunity to trade them away. So it just is like a massive clusterfuck of like 2000, like what, 2022 to 2023 of just like, we're not going to do anything. We're not going to help these guys try to win more games. We're not going to trade for anybody. We're going to see how it goes, but then we're going to also wait a year too late before deciding to pivot. But
It's oh man, I think like the really interesting thing. Well, actually, what I like seeing online, and our mutual friend is a huge. This is the worst thing he does. Loves to be involved in the discourse far too often. And anytime Pascal plays a good game and people notice, everyone gets a hmm. Oh, imagine if he was a Raptor, like I really like Pascal. I so enjoyed covering him, and I guess I still get to cover him
yeah,
for the Pacers. But you just he's no longer like you can't do the discourse every
yeah,
year, like I want if they had only, like it's. And then it also brings up because like Pascal, a certain percentage of the fan base was like, get this guy out of here. He's washed.
yeah.
He won't age well. And then it's just cats and dogs, dude. It's just people
Mhm.
don't mix. Just so that's always fun to peer into from the outside. When in reality, he's just a player on another team. You can just
Yeah.
enjoy the basketball. Like we all like players on other teams. Trey has mistress teams. He watches, and don't ask me why, but for enjoyment, apparently he turns on Charlotte Hornets games.
Hey, man. It's the best show on television.
Yeah.
Eric Collins is a national treasure. He should
maybe
be.
maybe your television, which is Tubi.
Eric Collins should be doing every national game for the
Dude,
NBA.
he's so good, and he doesn't rely on, in his bag like there were fries at the bottom. Actually, I'm sorry, Mark. I don't like, I, I like Mark and Paul and Justine. I love the Jones family. Okay, I don't mean to. Anyway, uh, yeah, Pascal has been really fun.
Mhm.
OG had that crazy run of play
Yeah,
towards the end of the season. And OG, when he's on offensively, actually he can make the case that he's like the best former Raptor of the bunch.
yeah,
Like he can be so impactful. It's just that the offense doesn't always clip that high. And Pascal, for his like as covering him as a pacer this year, and especially extensively during this playoff stretch, is like he has lifted his floor performance really, really high because the Pacers ask him to do so much for them, and he just answers the call repeatedly on both sides of the
yeah.
floor. Some of this is Rick Carlisle, the team he's built there helps paper over some of Pascal's weakness and embellish some of his strengths. But
Mhm.
I mean, players playing schemes all the time. Pascal looks great. Davion Mitchell has also been like unbelievable.
Yeah.
He-
He's hitting his three at a really high clip, and he's like some of the stuff, like the point guard stuff, where like he was able to manage the ball really well and play within the flow of the offense. I associate a lot more of that to like the style of the offense that the Raptors play, and the Heat do some of that also. But he can get downhill. He can make really good decisions with the basketball and also play make from that standpoint. So like I honestly like when they were playing, like they would have been very scrappy in this series if they still had Jimmy, honestly.
oh, they
And
they would have been the same way they always are, like in competition for a puncher's chance out of the East.
yeah,
Because they're always so impressive. Hey, an underrated thing about Davion is that Bam likes to catch the ball and receive the ball in similar places to Jakob Pertl, and Davion is
yep.
perfectly willing to facilitate that. Dennis Schroeder, I just hitting shots, walking into the three in clutch time. He will never want for confidence. He is simply, it is falling and oozing out of him at all points in time. The Heat are currently getting waxed by the Cavs, 68-51. That isn't like news in
Yeah.
particular because the Cavs are a tremendous basketball team. They're really good. What was that? Baker was like, beat the Cavs or else like it's not interesting. And I was like, is this the bar? You have to beat a 64 win
Oh
team?
yeah, because the Pacers haven't beaten a healthy team. This
Yeah.
series counts though. Damon's back. It counts.
Well, they also
Damon-
like if you believe people, Julius Randle actually was a detriment to the Knicks. So they're facing the best Knicks, I guess. Jason Tatum isn't even playing for the Celtics right now. Like
yeah.
he's sitting out. Franz and Moncaro are trying to like really establish this. I don't know why I'm doing this. The games will be decided by the time people listen to this. Who cares? Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, Raptors have been doing well, playing well, but all these guys, especially like, well, Fred. Okay, let's touch on Fred.
That's
He's Fred has definitely the fans are not that happy with Fred. Like he left with the bad taste in the mouth, all that kind of stuff, going both ways. He was
yeah.
like, those guys turned on me. And then they were like, you played bad for too long. And I mean, all of the warts of his game are just present
Yeah.
all the time. He is such a known quantity. Like he's going to give you plus defense at the guard spot. He's
Mhm.
going to be gritty. He's really going to help you win the turnover differential. He's going to help you control the ball and put guys in their spots. And then he's going to shoot 37% from the floor. And all those things are so good. And that last part is just such a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah.
Like I hated, even though, yeah, oh, Kyle Lowry was a plus 14. He scored 0 points. Like
Yeah.
I like avant-garde players, but it can't go that far. And Fred, he has to make some shots. And he
Yeah.
could. We've seen it, but I don't know.
I think he's in the one Raptor that's probably in the toughest spot because like Houston is so like devoid of like creation and like a lot of those end of possessions, like we used to say when he was on the Raptors, we're like he's shooting end of shot clock shots that his talent and skill set has no bearing taking because of the construction of that team. But like Sengun had a really good game against the Warriors, and that can be attributed to Fred being able to put them in spots. Their pick and roll has been pretty much changed Sengun's career from going from like a guy who's promising to an all-star level player. A lot of that happens because you have a guy that can play make, put guys in really good positions, and like he always makes the right choice when it comes to passing the ball. I think the shooting stuff is like he's so good at the other stuff that you kind of have to stomach
Yeah.
him going 3 for 14 from 3.
He shot 4 of 19 in game 1, by the way. That's
Hey,
insane. 10 points on 19 shots is almost criminal. It's not criminal, but it's like it's nearly criminal. Yeah, 2 of 13 from downtown. But he plays 40 minutes and he was a -3. He had outside of Steven Adams, he had the best plus minus on the
yeah,
team. And it's because you look at their roster and you ask, like, do you want Amen Thompson or Dylan Brooks or Jalen Green or Tari Eason starting offense? No.
no.
And then you look and it's just Fred VanVleet, which makes me really interested for what the rest of this series looks like. Because Houston, they're good enough to steal some.
Mhm.
That defense is no joke, and if they get out running and if they get the 3-point shots going, they can topple the Warriors for a few games at least. But what they do with Fred in the offseason, I really because there are some players who are always at risk of being upgraded upon because they're
Yeah.
not so good, but they're good enough that it's not that easy to upgrade. And that seems like Fred. And he's getting paid extremely well for that.
Well, he always wins at the end. Um, I think I look at that situation similar to Al Horford with the Celtics when those guys were really young, where he's a guy that you probably want you probably want a better player in that slot, maybe even that salary. But he's so like tenable like with the team and is a guy like whose game is going to grow as those other guys get a lot better. And like Al stayed for 4 or 5 more years after they signed him to a
They
max deal.
traded him as
Yeah,
well, right? Like
yeah.
he went off, he went to Philly, then he
Yeah.
went to the OKC, and
See, and
OKC
then
was like, "We have nothing for him." And then he went back to the Celtics and was good again. It's like
yeah,
he and Nick Batum just keep getting like teams are like, "No, no, no, no," but then they're good. It just
yeah.
the NBA is a crazy place.
So I see him like I could see him aging into that situation where like he's the starting guard for maybe another couple years. Ideally, they make a star trade, and maybe Amen Thompson also just takes that leap of taking the ball out of his hands, and he could be your bench guard at 33, 34 years old and be very good at it.
I I love that because his stat line with the Rockets, like sorted on Basketball Reference, will probably look similar to like those early, like those 2002 point guards. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? If you look at their stats, you're like, this guy took 13 shots a game and he shot horribly from the floor and he made one All-Star game. And what the hell am I looking at here? And Fred is singular in that regard.
Mhm.
There's not, there's no other guard in the NBA, one like him, and of the guards who get paid like him, nobody comes close to that statistical profile.
Yeah.
Like there's a bunch of guards who sit around, like who score pretty well, who are on defense, who are okay at playmaking. There's like a glut of like 11 of them. And Fred is just this other thing. He's just this other thing.
Yeah.
He's
Like
funny, man.
his contract situation even is like a once in a lifetime situation where
Yep.
he just like happened to be a free agent at the right time. He got to give the big FU to all the Raptors fans and he got paid. Like and I didn't think Houston was going to be that good this quickly, and like everything worked out because a guy like him is super impactful. He helps teams win minutes, and like I think they're. I think when people listen to this today, I think Houston has won, and it's 1-1.
They it wouldn't surprise me if they won
Yeah,
tonight. Yeah.
yeah.
But they play in about 40 minutes. We've talked enough basketball. Stay tuned with us. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps the show. By the way, for people, they'll probably know because it hit their podcast feed. We're back on podcast feeds, baby. It's been sorted out. We've made the move. We're all set, so you can listen to myself and Trey via the podcast feed. You don't have to step onto YouTube. Trey, any parting shots before we get out of here?
Nothing really. I can't wait for another little deep dive with some of our prospects and digging into some of this because there is the doomsday scenario where we're at like 9 or 10, but like I have to stomach that reality. So
Dude,
it'd be great
I
if
make the leap. Like, come on, man. Like the
yeah.
league, the league should be looking because they actually, as a media member, I'm not going to forward the idea that it's rigged. It's it's not rigged, but let's pretend that it is. Let's
Yeah.
pretend we're pretending everybody that there's like some sort of finagling that goes on. You know, the Raptors are a pretty good spot for a high pick to land.
Yep.
You can get that high pick, coverage presumably in the playoffs next year, or at least in play-in games.
Mhm.
They can play on a team that is built to compete for a little while. It's Masai, it's the market outside of America. Who wants to work in America right now, huh? We got the international market. The Raptors might be the biggest thing since sliced bread because they're not American. We have many advantages.
Yeah.
Why not send a tremendous player up here?
Winning the lottery would be like the second or third best day as a Raptor fan ever. No, it's definitely would be second. I
There
would be
was
running the streets.
I can't remember who said it, but there was a stream I was doing, one of my Saturday streams, and a commenter, it, I think they said they would rather get the number one pick than a championship. And I was like, whoa, which I don't agree with at all.
Yeah.
But getting the number one pick is a huge deal.
Yeah.
And I know there are, you can make your criticisms of Cooper Flag, but I think he is the number one prospect, and he is, damn, he's good at basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What before we leave, did you have like a reaction when the Raptors like won the lotto, the Andrea Bargnani year? Did you feel like we were
I
saved?
I didn't know. Like I didn't know until after it happened. Like it was 2006.
Yeah.
So I'm like 10 years old, and I told you yeah, I told you and Kyle, like, yeah, P Diddy didn't have much impact on the culture of Sturgis, Saskatchewan. Like we like like we didn't know what we didn't know what Death Row Records was up to. We didn't know what Diddy was up to. We didn't know anything. And Raptors news was like few and far between. It was whatever I caught on Sports Center, and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And then they drafted Bargnani, and I was like, "Odd. We'll see how
Well,
this goes."
it was tough. Like as a kid, I used to watch college basketball a ton. For
Like
I don't
how
know.
old? How old?
I want to say from like 8 to like 15, 16. I used to
8.
watch yeah,
You are an
tons of
old
college
soul.
basketball.
You are an old soul. It's sitting on the couch watching the boys play at 8 is like
Sean
something else.
Sean May, Raymond Felton, that was some of the best times of my life.
Hell yeah, dude.
But, like, I was so sure they're gonna draft LaMarcus Aldridge. Even at that age, I'm like, "The Raptors did it. Look at this guy."
Where did Aldridge go to school?
Texas.
Texas? Wait, do you have his stats right now? What were LaMarcus's stats in college?
Oh, let's
I
see.
want to see if he was like a legendary bucket getter in college. Like, was he a big time post bag guy? I mean, he must have been.
Yeah, he was. He was like the quintessential four player. And like
Mm.
at that age and that like time, you're like, just play Chris Bosh at the 3. He'll be fine.
Oh man, let's go. Yes, dude.
All right. He averaged 15, 9, 3.4 stocks. Wow.
Wow, because he's not quick
Yeah.
ever. LaMarcus was
56% shooting.
wow. Yeah, LaMarcus Aldridge, good for you. Yeah, he's not a fast human
Yeah.
being relative to the rest of everybody. Okay, that's enough podcasting. Feels
Yeah.
like that was your parting shot. And for me, I just make sure to comment, like, and subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you to everybody for tuning in from myself and Trey. Whether you got into this in the morning or at night, have a blessed day and goodbye.